what you thought about that incident with Mac Jones.
I wish all my fellow DN brothers happy hunting. That's all. It would be nice to have an apology.
Mac?
It would be nice to have an apology.
Okay, I think it's time for us to revisit the clip where Mac Jones tackled Brian Burns by his ankle. Okay, sorry about that. I must have typed in the wrong video because that was clearly a clip of Brian Burns tackling Matt Ryan by his ankle. So let's just run the real clip real quick. Here it is. Okay, this is the one where Mac Jones tackled Brian Burns by his ankle. Again, just like I said in the previous video, Mac Jones clearly is trying to bring Brian Burns down. Nobody is trying to deny that because everybody's trying to prove a point and they're like, oh, look, Mac Jones tried to take Brian Burns down. Yeah, he thought he might have had the ball or could have gotten the ball. Of course he tried to bring him down. That's what he was trying to do. I don't think anybody is denying that. So that's not really a valid point. I know you guys obviously would have preferred that Mac Jones just let Brian Burns run because he would have taken the fumble back for a touchdown probably. He obviously was closest to the ball out of anybody, and if Mac Jones didn't grab onto Brian Burns, he would have been able to really quickly get to the ball and then score a touchdown. By the way, the game was 0-0 at this point, so it would have really put the Panthers in a great situation. But Mac Jones loves winning, he loves playing good football, and he made the right move and prevented Brian Burns from getting the fumble. And Mac Jones thought maybe Brian Burns has the ball right now. I don't know, I just got hit in the head. This play, all of this stuff that you've been seeing in slow motion happened within like 3 seconds. So I know a lot of people are like, clearly Mac Jones had the time to realize that the players were running the other way and all this other stuff. No, he didn't. He had 3 seconds and he just got hit in the head from the back. And you guys really think this guy can analyze the entire field real quick before he decides if he wants to pull down Brian Burns or not? No. You just assume the worst, and the worst is that Brian Burns has the ball. So you take him down. If Mac Jones didn't do that leg sweep thing, then Brian Burns is going to be able to break away. So in Mac Jones' mind, he's like, I better bring this guy down so I can potentially, even if it's a 10% chance that Brian Burns had the football or whatever it is, so that I can potentially end a touchdown score for the Panthers. And that's exactly what he did in his head. Again, like I said in the last video, I understand the fact that this is not a concept that Panthers fans understand, but believe us, the rest of the other 31 teams in the NFL do understand this concept. Now, all of this information and why I made this second video is because Brian Burns did have a press conference interview thing where he did talk a lot about this. He actually spent like 80% of the time talking about this, and that's probably why you guys keep losing games because you're so focused on past things, but whatever. Let's go over some quick key notes from his actual interview here, and I think this is really helpful to just raise awareness about the whole situation. So keynote number 1, and you can watch the press conference yourself and confirm that all of these facts are really what he said. Keynote number 1, his ankle was already hurt before the Mac Jones thing even happened, so that's really important. Keynote number 2, his ankle was also injured later in the game, again, separately, after he came back a couple plays later after the Mac Jones incident, so it didn't even hurt him that bad. The reason he's so hurt now, and he's still not even hurt that bad, is because he actually got rolled up on again. Number 3, wishes he had the chance to play the Pats again, even though he played 2+ quarters after the strip sack. And then keynote number 4, and finally, this is our last one, he wished happy hunting to defensive ends around the league on Mac Jones, which I think is very dirty. I mean, compared to the tackling a guy by the ankles, I mean, wishing your fellow defensive ends around the league happy hunting on Mac Jones, I mean, this is really something that you can get suspended for. What Mac Jones did is not something you can get suspended for, but, I mean, we go back to the New Orleans Saints bounty scandal, and their head coach was out for the entire season following that. They also lost 2 second-round picks. Their general manager was out for the entire next season, I believe. Their defensive coordinator was suspended indefinitely. And you mean to tell me that this guy can go out there and say that, kind of hoping that defensive ends go after Mac Jones and potentially injure him as revenge for his fellow defensive ends or whatever it is, and you're telling me that's not something he can be fined for or suspended for? You see, Mac Jones' intentions, nobody can confirm what Mac Jones' intentions are, but Brian Burns saying that, you can easily assume what his intentions are by saying that. So this is a much more punishable offense, in my opinion, than Mac Jones even tackling him by the ankles. This just goes back to the old saying, 2 wrongs do not make a right. And even if you think Mac Jones was wrong in the first place, you can't really defend Brian Burns when he said that. So in this final segment, we're just going to go over a few plays that were a little shady that happened by Brian Burns later in that game. Because again, after he went to the hospital and they cured his broken heart, he actually came back in the game. That was a few plays later there. And he made a few questionable plays. You could tell he was visibly mad. And first off, I want to talk about this one here where I think he's trying to go after Mac Jones, but he ends up making a helmet-to-helmet tackle on Damian Harris, leading with the crown of his helmet. I don't know how that did not get flagged or penalized, or he hasn't been fined for that, because again, that play right there is already way worse than the Mac Jones ankle tackle. This is kind of just the irony of it all, in my opinion. But this was a really bad tackle, and Damian Harris is legitimately possibly going to be out for the upcoming game. Brian Burns said he's likely going to play in the upcoming game. So even though, again, like he obviously suffered an extremely major injury, probably the worst injury in NFL history after Mac Jones went Danielson on his ankle, he's still going to play this upcoming weekend. And now Damian Harris is going to be out after Brian Burns decided to just take out his anger on our running backs. So that's play number one. And then play number two, he goes ahead and after Ramondre Stevenson, our other running back, because again, he already concussed our Damian Harris, our starting running back. Our second running back gets tackled, and then he decides that he's going to slow down because he's running towards a guy, and he's not going to jump over him like every single other NFL player does when this type of a situation happens. Instead, he's going to slow down his step and just give him a nice 1-2 kick right to the helmet. Ramondre Stevenson also might not be available for the upcoming game due to his concussion caused by yours truly, Brian Burns, who kicked him in the head twice. Okay, if you try to claim that he cannot jump over him in this case, I mean, that's crazy. Between this and then the Damian Harris play, there is no defending it. I mean, I think the Damian Harris one is worse, but this Ramondre Stevenson one is also very, very fishy looking, in my opinion. Also, last but not least, not to mention, on the actual play that this whole thing is about, this whole drawn-out drama, and I'm 99% sure it's mostly the Panthers just mad about the fact that they lost, because they did have some hopes of possibly making the playoffs, and now that has been completely crushed. But on the play where Mac Jones fumbled, you can literally see here that he grabs Mac Jones' face mask as he's coming down, and that is definitely a play that should have been flagged, and it shouldn't have even been a turnover for the Panthers, because this is a penalty that would have given the ball back to the Patriots. So Panthers are acting like they got cheated because they didn't get a penalty on this play, which would have been a 15-yard penalty, by the way, and you already have the ball. So let's talk about how big of a difference that was going to make. Okay, Sam Darnold would have thrown an interception to the 50-yard line as opposed to our own 35. I don't see the huge difference there because we likely would have scored either way. That's not actually what happened on that drive, but I'm just, that's what happened most of the game. But this is a big penalty because it would have completely flipped who has the ball. It would have given us back the ball. I mean, wild stuff going on here, and as you can see, there's only one thing that the Panthers fans are complaining about with the Patriots, what the Patriots did or what Mac Jones did, but there is a handful of things that the Panthers did in this game that were completely shady, and it's not nearly getting the same media attention. And we all know why that is, and it's because it's the Patriots and not the Panthers. People aren't afraid of the Panthers, and people are legitimately trying their best to distract the Patriots or just generally put a stall on their development as a team here, and especially Mac Jones' rookie development, because they can't handle the idea of the Patriots being good for an extended amount of time once again, and they will stop that at any means, even if it means people trying to pin this against Mac Jones. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and like the video. Also subscribe for the best Patriots content on YouTube. I will see you guys in the next video.